Well, hello everybody. Welcome to today's story. It's called The Only Game in Town. We're going to look at some very interesting things, some on-chain things, identify who the players are, and find out why. Why? For 2 months now have we been chopsolidating sideways, and it's been over 30 days since we hit an all-time high. So we'll look into who's buying, who's selling, what threats are coming to the Bitcoin network. Yes, another quantum threat. Who is Satoshi? A little bit more on that. And some other crazy news. We'll also talk about MicroStrategy because they're up to something as well. So it's a lot to break down. Let's make it happen. This is the Bitcoin Daily Show. And for those only interested, there'll be a playlist here or after the end of the video. So let's get into it. And thank you all for coming. And this is not financial advice. And thank you as well to everybody in Patreon and the team behind me to make this possible every day. This is from Kung Fu Panda. Says, I wish I discovered your group sooner. I enjoy being part of this community and look forward to your daily Patreon updates, posts, videos, and insights. Thank you so much for being part of it. Let's get into the first big story. Range bound. Everybody's frustrated. Bitcoin right now is $96,400. We're $3,500 away from 100 grand. And people, you'd swear Bitcoin is at $15,000. Anyhow, this is from Samson Mao. Oh, by the way, shout out to Samson too. He is also another OG in the space, but he did predict $1 million Bitcoin sometime in 2025 last year. I think that might be off the table. I think it probably is. But he spoke about how we've been range bound now for over 2 months, trading between 92,400 and 106,500. And that's basically since December 18. And what is it? Feb 19. So it's over 2 months, 2 months and 1 day. And he believes there's some type of price suppression going on. He was at a panel discussion, I think, in Hong Kong at Consensus. I thought that was an Ethereum show. Anyway, but if you look at the price movement, we peak and then we stay steady and then we chop sideways and we fall down, a little bit of manipulation. We know the players are in there. We know the big exchanges are working with the other players like Wintermute to make things go up and down and liquidate long. So the question is, are we coiling up? Are we going to chopsolidate sideways? As I covered in yesterday's video, was this the cycle top? The answer is no. And there's some good stuff happening behind the scenes, but let's get into it. A lot of charts to try and find some signal in some of the noise. So we're going to look around at some of these charts. First of all, the demand for Bitcoin, which picked up late 2024 after November 5th, the US election, huge amount of optimism over easing regulatory headwinds and USEC, Trump election win. But that's all retreating. It's like all the fizzle has gone from the drink, as they say. And crypto quant data shows that demand growth slumped to 70,000 Bitcoin recently from the 279,000 Bitcoin peak on December 4th. That is the daily change in total Bitcoin holdings. Basically, volume multiplied by the amount of Bitcoin moving around. Now, inflows to spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds typically happens during previous Bitcoin rally seems to have disappeared, and booking regular net outflows over the past 2 weeks has not seen much. We've fallen down from plus 18,000 a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, to the minus 1,000 daily drop today, which is not good. We do need those ETFs to come in, but there's a lot of unsureness, insecurity out there in the markets. Let's look at the demand for Bitcoin and how it's also faltering. Another chart from CryptoQuant, and this is their inter-exchange flow pulse, which tracks Bitcoin movement between exchanges. And this also signals weakness with Bitcoin transfers to Coinbase, etc., Binance, a gauge of US spot demand, which is declining below its 90-day moving average. Now, if you look at this chart, I put some extra arrows on the chart so we get a feel. You got high demand in green on left and on the right. Those high demand periods were up to April 2024 when the ETFs launched. And then we had the post-election buzz as well, and a lot of demand. And all of a sudden, it just fizzled out. Now we're in a low demand zone. We did have a negative demand zone back in the summer doldrums in August 2024, late July. And that continued in September. And then in mid-September, rocket ship. all changed. But that's what happens. As we've covered many times before, it's the top 10 days every year that matter to be in the markets. The rest of the time, it's flat or down. And that's just how markets work. Another chart as well to try and figure out exactly where we are going and who the players are. Bitcoin is, again, trading now in this $93,000 to $97,000 range. And it looks like a big, wider market cooldown. Capital inflows are weakening. Derivatives activity is declining. Short-term accumulation patterns resemble May 2021. The question is, what happens next? Now, this is a chart from Glassnode. They call it RSD, Realized Supply Density. And that is the on-chain metric that shows the distribution of Bitcoin supply based on the price at which each coin last moved. And they just have one chart open here, but typically you can have the purple line, which is when the price level or 10% of Bitcoin supply was last moved. 15% is the blue line, the price when 15% of Bitcoin supply last moved. And then 5% is the light blue line. This is where 5% of Bitcoin supply last moved. Now, this chart is just focusing on the 15%er. And they are the big kind of purpley boxes. Now, the question is, if we look back in history to May 2021, Bitcoin's price rose sharply after this happened, and the realized supply density levels indicated a strong upward trend. By the way, the black line is the Bitcoin price. So maybe we could have a strong upward trend like we did in May 2021 as we leave this purple box. In April 2024, we had a chopsolidation after leaving the purple box. The question is, what happens next? We are not sure. But again, after this peak, the price experienced a lot of volatility and sometimes a correction, sometimes a slight correction, and then a big upward move. Again, we're not sure. I can't exactly find a proper signal in this chart as well. Now, one thing is for sure is when you look at the players, this is a great chart from Econometrics. Saves me doing the work and looking at all the different cohorts, but I will do an update on that soon. But this is a high-level chart of showing you exactly where the players are. This points to the groups with the cohorts less than 1 Bitcoin over the last year. You can see down. Okay, basically where they were a year ago. The 10 to 100 Bitcoin, down. The 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin, down. The more than 100,000 Bitcoin, flat since November. The 1 to 10 Bitcoin, down. And the 10,000 to 100,000 Bitcoin, flat. But if you look at the 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin, these are the moves on a daily basis. And almost 1 million coins were added since March. And that's the most of the activity, which also corresponds to the ETF flows. So one way to understand this is all the movements, most of the movements are tied to these ETF flows. And again, that's the 100 to 1,000 address cohort. And the timing matches these ETF flows perfectly. So if it was not for the ETFs, ladies and gentlemen, nothing would be happening much on Bitcoin right now. And a lot of people are complaining that all these memes and all these tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of other coins are sucking the oxygen from the room. But not really, because Bitcoin is actually holding up really well while other assets are getting crushed in the space. Now, how long has it since the Bitcoin all-time high? This is from Wicked. It's a cool little chart. It's been 30 days since we've had an all-time high in Bitcoin. 30 days, the all-time high was $108,899.93. And now we're 96.5, give or take $100. And we're down 11.37% from the all-time high. And again, 30 days since we hit that all-time high. But humans, it appears, have very short-term memories. It seems like years. It's like, what is the Titanic meme of the lady from the Titanic with the special diamond? And it's like, it's been 114 years or whatever it is. And anyway, that's how people feel right now. And I get it. Chopsolidation is painful. But sometimes you got to be patient in markets. Now, let's talk about some of the good stuff that's happening behind the scenes. First of all, Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve is looking good from the Bitcoin conference. Their reserve bill is expected to pass committee. Let's go Texas. Now, if this does get through and goes through all the different layers, they have committed to buying $500 million worth of Bitcoin a year and keeping it for an extended period of time, which is good. Now we go to look again. We talked about Samson Mao already. Let's talk about another OG in the space. This is Adam Back, and he was on CNBC, which is very, very special for them to have him on. I'm very happy that they did so. I normally call them CNBS, but today I will call them CNBC because they had Adam Back on the show, which is great. And again, I think this is from Consensus in Hong Kong. But in this interview, I retweeted it earlier today, that he is somebody who knows what's going on. And he laid out all of the treasury reserves, all of the MicroStrategy accumulation, the ETFs, etc. A lot of the ETF filings, the Section 13 filings, whatever it's called, I forget what it's called. Big names have been stacking Bitcoin. Big names have been stacking a lot of MicroStrategy, a lot of IBIT. And it's been very impressive. The institutional holdings have gone from 700 to over 1,100 names in just 1 quarter. So stacking is happening behind the scenes. And that's why Samson Mao is perplexed as to why the price is not going up, because a huge amount of buying is happening, as is seen here. Big players, almost on a daily basis. It has slowed down over the last 2 weeks, or last 10 days or so, but it'll come back. And Adam Back believes we are still in the very early innings of this bull run. There's a lot more to come, so hope he's right. Now, another big tailwind is like, okay, a lot of good stuff is happening, but this, I haven't checked in on global liquidity and how it's grown in a week or so, but this chart is telling the blue and yellow is the Bitcoin movement and trend, and this trend, you could argue, is in a downward trend right now. Looks like it's going to turn around maybe around 96 and head higher again, maybe back up to an all-time high. And you can see it's been 30 days since we are at the last all-time high of 108,000. But the yellow line with the big yellow arrow pointing to it shows you that global liquidity is up so far year to date. This chart, Alex Rogan, thank you for coming as well. This chart is year to date, and we've gone from global liquidity of whatever they measured, 28, up to way north of nearly 29, up to 30, which is, it doesn't sound like a big percentage move, but it's nearly 3.84% or so far this year, which is good. And that's going to continue to grow. And as global liquidity rises, so will Bitcoin price, with a time lag, of course, somewhere between 10 and 12 weeks. So expect us to fulfill Adam Back's vision in the next 2 to 3 months as we go from here. And other crazy good news too. This is the approval of Howard Lutnick, who is the chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald. He has personally hundreds of millions of Bitcoin. So does his firm. His firm also manages Tether's Bitcoin bags, etc. But Lutnick was a very vocal proponent of Bitcoin, and he compares it to gold, but the new digital gold. And he believes it would be great for free global trade without restrictions. And at the Bitcoin conference last year, he said, Bitcoin is like gold and should be free trade everywhere. Potentially a strong ally for Bitcoin as the new Commerce Secretary. And his leadership, why we care, it could foster and help catalyze a more crypto-friendly environment in the US, advocating for clear regulations, and maybe bringing more Bitcoin into commerce, into global trade, etc. I still have that dream of the petro Bitcoin instead of the petrodollar. But who knows, maybe one day. Now, we know that the ETFs are very influential in the Bitcoin price. They are the only player. But there's another big one too, and they announced yesterday, right before I went live. I covered this briefly. I'm going to spend a bit more time on it today. MicroStrategy, or they now call themselves Strategy B, announced a new private offering, which is a convertible bond of $2 billion. Okay. They normally announce this. They get oversubscribed, probably 2.5, 2.6 billion is what I think. It's at 0% interest, so it doesn't cost MicroStrategy anything until it converts in 2030. And they'll take that $2 to $2.6 billion and spend it on Bitcoin. This will be a big buy. Now, let's see where they are in terms of the ATM and convertible. This is from the 21 billion plan. They're currently at about 16.83 billion of the 21 billion of ATM. The ATM has slowed down. They haven't ATM'd in the last 2 weeks. Also, they haven't bought in the last 2 weeks. Now, in terms of the issued so far on the convertible side, the right-hand side, they've only done 3 billion. Now they're going to add another 2.5. And we did say late 2024 that 2025 for MicroStrategy will be the year of the convertibles. I expect them to blow through this 21 billion sometime this year. And also they'll be doing a lot more ATM probably when the time is right, when the premium is right to buy more Bitcoin. But what they're basically doing, like meme coins do to altcoins, they're sucking the oxygen out of the room. Well, Michael Saylor is sucking the Bitcoin supply out of the room too. It's eventually going to kick off with this amount of buying. Again, only 450 are issued today. I reckon at least 25,000 Bitcoin will be bought in the next week or so. And this is the smash buy coming in. Shout out to Søren Basher. He took their chart, added a red line. I think it's going to be a lot more than 20,000 Bitcoin. I think it'll be 25,000 because they typically get oversubscribed. And the price is under 100,000 right now, which means MicroStrategy will soon have over 500,000 in Bitcoin. That is 3.3% of the total supply. Is if you assume there'll never be more than 15 million Bitcoin, which is what I do because I've been counting how many have been lost since 2017. That's just what it is. And they have their cool strategy dashboard as well. Just to walk you through it real quick, a few things to point out. The Bitcoin count in the middle, 478,740. They only need about 21,260 to make 500,000 Bitcoin. That's crazy. If you asked me in the beginning of 2024, would they hit 500,000 Bitcoin? I said probably never. But the buying this year has been insane. The last 12 months has been insane. The other thing I want to point out here is the debt. It is the debt listed, 6.5 billion. Market cap, about 83 billion. The debt plus preferred shares as a percentage of market cap is only 9%. So a lot of people are very fearful that this company is completely debt-ridden. No, it's not. DBF. 430. Thank you so much as well for coming. It's not at all. And shout out to T&D Tesla and Sean Donnelly and American Beijing and K8. Thank you for all keeping us safe from scammers. But this is interesting. We will track this very well. And by the way, the stock is up 2,400% since they started down this path. And the last year, 354%. So it still is cooking. It hasn't gone ballistic like it did in 2024, but we'll see. But big players are still buying a lot of this. In fact, we saw another very interesting name hit the list, and that is Union Bank of Switzerland has bought $1.2 billion worth of MicroStrategy at an average price of $290, which means they did it last quarter, which is when these reports are coming out. They always come out a quarter later, but that's another big bag. And they join the 1% club, the people that have over 1%. Names like the Vanguards, the BlackRocks, the Norwegian Fund. Who else? A whole bunch have over $1 billion in this name. It's quite incredible. Now, one other little piece of news to plot twist the decade. I did cover this briefly yesterday, the day before, regarding Jack Dorsey. A lot of buzz out there of him being Satoshi. And this was a cool little survey on the world of statistics. Do you believe Jack Dorsey is the Bitcoin creator, Satoshi Nakamoto? 22.2% say yes, 79.8% say no. And conspiracy theories have been applied to people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Adam Back and a whole bunch of others as to who Satoshi is. And there's no definitive proof anywhere out there. And just to cover this fascinating story, there was, and I did talk about them a few days ago, an eerie alignment of events, but no direct evidence that confirms Dorsey as Satoshi. But he does have a cryptographic background, and so does Adam Back. He does have ideological alignment, check there. And he could be a strong candidate, and his timeline does overlap with key Satoshi milestones. And he continues to shape the Bitcoin ecosystem in a way that aligns with Satoshi's original vision. So the theory remains unproven but intriguing, whether or not Jack is Satoshi. His role in the evolution of digital payments and decentralized finance is completely undisputable. And I think even if he was, he wouldn't tell anybody he was. That's the beauty of it. Now, in threat vector of the day, yet another quantum twist. And this stuff, when it comes out, people get so freaked out and so alarmed. And I'm here to calm you all down. So let's walk through this. This is the new latest fear. It's a company called Microsoft. They have, like Google did a few months ago, a new quantum processor called Marijuana 1. I probably said that wrong, but just for giggles, Marijuana. I don't know how they make up these names. Anyway, they do have this new quantum processor, and it is 1/100th of a millimeter, and it does 1,000,000 qubits, whatever. But a lot of people fear it's in reach. I think it's only 8 qubits. 8 qubits, not 1,000,000, but it's in reach of being able to hack Bitcoin. No, it's not. So, and the question is it possible that it could grow big enough, strong enough to hack SHA-256 or ECDSA in the next 5 years? The answer is 0 chance. I'll make sure you see my face. 0 chance in the next 5 years this can do it. Neither can the Google one, which I forget the name of already. Again, don't freak out. Now, the next question is, next 5 to 15 years, is it possible? Yes, if it reaches 1,000,000 qubits. But the Bitcoin platform can be made quantum resistant in that time frame. So the developers have plenty of time to do this. The community awareness is extremely high, and they know what they need to do. Zero risk over the next 5 years of a quantum risk for Bitcoin. The 5 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years out from now, is there a possibility? Yes, if the protocol doesn't change, but it will change. It'll be developed further and it'll be made quantum resistant. And just to put things finally in perspective, because this keeps people awake at night and scares the heck out of them. This is the math behind what it takes to winning the lottery, Powerball, versus guessing a private key or having a quantum computer hack it. So the probability of winning the Powerball is 1 in 292 million. And the probability of guessing any Bitcoin private key with a balance is, I can't even read that number. It's massive. You'd have to win Powerball 9 times in a row to get close to guessing the other number. And shout out to Carl B. Menger as well for the inspiration for this one too. Again, it's not possible. It's really hard to crack. That's all you need to know. Just don't lose any sleep over it, okay? Don't worry. And every day we'll be on top of this as we go forward. So next 5 years, 0 chance. 0 chance. 10 to 15 years from now, potentially, but it'll be hardened. And that's the story for today. Hope you like the quick Bitcoin update. The only game in town, ETFs. And the people buying the ETFs tend to be sovereigns, etc., like the Sovereign Wealth Fund in Dubai and MicroStrategy. We look forward to seeing their big buy and see if it impacts what's happening. The OTC desks have 126,000 Bitcoin on them. If Michael Saylor buys his 2.5 billion, he'll suck in 26,000 Bitcoin, which would bring the OTC desk down to 100,000. And I'll be tracking that all, so you don't have to. Thank you all for coming. Thank you again to the mods in chat and everybody out there. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.